We're sitting here at Diamonds and Dirt. It's the first conversation of the week for us. We've been just running around, doing a bunch of bullshit, getting some fun videos and making fun of my wife mainly. But so we're sitting here with Bryan and Cullins. What's up, man?
Not much. How are you?
Good.
Did you have any luck in the fraternity today?
So. I think I run 2 7s and an 8 towards the back. Definitely have to be faster tomorrow.
What's the cut at right now? You know?
I think I was like 31st and 33rd with the 2 7s.
They take 40?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, it got fast there towards the end.
Yeah, it did.
Okay. And so that 3 is winning it. There's a longer 3 and then some 4 O's and stuff like that. Is 3 ended up winning it, right?
Yeah.
Who was winning it? Craig is winning it.
Craig won it.
Yeah, it was smoking fast. I think it's always impressive to come here and watch some of the fastest runs of the week getting laid down in the first couple of hundred horses that are 4-year-olds. I guess 4 and 5-year-olds here.
Yeah.
But pretty damn impressive.
I think this is the time of the year when they start looking like big horses.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there's always a few that make some really fast runs, but even when they do it, it looks juvenile still to me.
Like they're on the verge.
Uh-huh. Right about this time is when I think they start putting it all together. April and May.
Yeah.
At Fort Smith, they all look like big horses already, all mature horses. But I watched a little bit this morning, and I thought, man, these look like Derby horses out here running now. Like I sat up there and watched the Derby a little bit, and I thought, well, these don't look any different than the fraternity horses that ran fast.
It really didn't. I mean, Haley Kinzel's mom, Leslie, is currently winning it, which is impressive in its own right. But she ran a 3, and I mean, there was the same. The run looked the same as some of those other fast ones, but for the most part, same type of runs are winning. It's really the fraternity world right now is as impressive as I've ever seen, and I've only been around 11 or 12 years now, kind of watching it intently.
How old are you, Brandon?
30.
30.
And how long have you been in the fraternities?
I went to Oklahoma City the first time in 2007.
12 years.
That was the year before my first time. That may have been my first time. Did I go in 2007? May have been my first Oklahoma City.
You want me to date myself?
Nope. Go ahead.
My very first fraternity horse I ever fraternity'd on that I won a little bit on was in 1995, and the first one I trained that I won a fraternity on was in 1998.
We'll have Talmadge on later in the week, and he'll laugh at you.
I know. And that'll make me feel better because Mr. 2007 just made me feel real old.
Well, what Brandon's done in the last couple of years has, you've doubled your career earnings probably in the last 3 years or so with some...
Probably last year.
Last year?
Yeah.
How much did you win last year?
465 or something like that.
You were the overall... I just saw the stats in the new Barrel Horse News that you were the overall leading barrel horse jockey of the year. You won more than Haley, who won the world, so on and so forth. You won the most money out of everyone.
It was a great year, I gotta say that.
I'm like, I hope that you're having that stat framed on something.
Only time I've seen it is Emily sent me a picture of it somebody else put on Facebook, so I haven't even seen it yet.
Emily, have that framed for him because, I want to say that you're going to do it like 100 more times.
But probably not.
But if you do it even one more time, I mean, in this day and age, if you just do that one more time, that's incredible.
Doing that one more time is $1 million career, damn near.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And that to hit almost $500,000 in a year.
How many horses did you win money on? Do you know?
I think I had in the stud and the futurity. The stud, I had one of Samantha's for half the year. Jim and Stacy's, I had one of theirs, and then I had another one of Robin's that won a little bit of money. Then she got hurt. And then Cornerstone in the Derby, and then Rocco the Sucker Punch. I guess 6. Him in the opens.
That's still a pretty damn good average if you divide 4. What'd you say, 460?
Yeah, but you can fit that many in one trailer.
Yeah.
You can fit that many horses in one trailer, $500,000. That's pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times if somebody wins that much money, it's on a lot more horses than that. 10, 12.
Yeah.
In all categories, because that's the opens, the derbies, fraternities, everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was total. That was total what she like. Second place was Haley, who won
And
a
that's
majority of that pro
and
rodeo
that's
American.
Equistats. How much more do you think? I mean, because those stats are never truly accurate because not
Right.
everybody keeps Equistats. I mean, you actually won more than that.
Yeah. There's some jackpots around home
Yeah.
and stuff that never send it in.
Yeah.
Me and Emily have been bugging them to do it, but they.
It's
won't.
always that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We always have that conversation when it comes to BFA end of the year points, where it's weighted a little heavier in the East, and now kind of some
Yeah.
other places where, we had Prince and a couple other horses who would have had points to do it, and it didn't happen because the things that he won got the same number of points as much small, like
Yeah.
one LG. And
You get the
that's
same.
number
You
of
get the
points.
same amount for Fort Smith as like some fraternities that have 100 in them or whatever.
30.
Or
Yeah,
30,
right.
however many. Yeah.
So if
And
anybody's-
actually more if it's 2 goes and an average because Fort Smith is just 2 runs.
Yeah.
So you just get points in the long go and the short go. Well, like in the long go, on him, my goal was to just leave the barrel standing because if I knew I just made a decent run.
Yeah, it's a clean slate.
Oh yeah, and he like went to the man sitting in the chair and at the third barrel there was like the person that sets the barrel
Yeah.
because over there he's like gonna go have a hot dog I guess with him and I think I was like 17th or 18th. Well, I didn't get any points in the long go.
Yeah.
And then, so, I mean, I got 15 points, BFA points for winning Fort Smith.
Yeah. But
So-
Well, let me tell you.
as long as they give you that check, though.
That's best say that
They do.
our banker didn't ask how many BFA points you got.
No, but I wanted 115 BFA points for winning Fort
We
Smith.
tried to do that for a long time.
I mean, let's weight it by how hard it is to win.
So if
I won
anybody-
115
If
points.
any decision makers, from the BFA are listening, which I'm sure they are, let's look at that. There's a good transition. Speaking of BFA, has anybody ever won the juvenile and the juvenile fraternity and the fraternity in the same year, other than you? Only one. Wife's up there. Nope, not wife.
I don't know. I know Molly. You mean running the couple in the same in the 1 year?
Right,
Yeah.
in the same year.
I know Molly the year before won the 2, the Futurity and the Juvenile.
Mhm.
I
But on
don't
different
know.
horses.
Yeah.
So talk about the year at BFA that year, kind of where your year started off.
You won them in the same year, right?
Yeah, the
You won the juvenile and the fraternity in the same year.
Juvenile, the Futurity, and the Derby.
And the Derby.
And the Derby.
He
Oh.
swept it. He swept all of it.
All of them.
Yeah. So talk about that
Did
year.
you even run in the open?
No,
Oh.
Good.
Well,
Let
that's
somebody else
good.
win.
Somebody else got a chance to win something.
But
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that week. I mean, you go there, you're loaded up like everybody else. Obviously, high expectations for the new crop coming in. Kind of the end of the year, last hurrah for some. Being mainly a fraternity trainer for other folks, you're sending horses back. For the most part, if you're not keeping them for their derby year, they're going home. So this is your last run on some of them. Even some of the derby horses, probably your last run on them as well, because they're probably going back to further their career with their owners and some of the other folks. You're going into this, and were you feeling good? Had you been working out a lot yourself going into that? Or your horses just been clicking at home? I mean, what happened that all of a sudden you're hitting a sweep at arguably the hardest event, most prestigious event in all of the fraternity world?
going to it, I knew that I had a really good group. I know, telling Emily I had like the best set of horses that I've ever brought there.
Mm-hmm.
And in your mind, you're thinking, oh yeah, that could happen, but you don't ever really think it will because so much luck goes into that. Everything has to fall right.
Right.
It does.
Just to win one, much less a couple of them. But
Just all of them.
All of them. I won them all.
Trying to be humble there.
Yes.
There was just a really good group of horses, and going into it, we had a couple bigger local shows and stuff, and I was hauling the 3-year-olds, and they were exhibitioning really good, and the 4-year-olds and the Derby horses, Sucker Punch, he had, he's always been like Old Faithful, like
Right.
He's awesome.
he just kind of always did it. And then the Cornerstone, that's kind of right when he started coming around, was in November really. I had him for a little while, and I was kind of hit or miss on him. He was a little bit tricky. Then November, I hauled him down to North Carolina, and he started just really kind of putting it together there. And Cassie helped me with him. I showed her a video where he'd run a barrel race back home, and I screenshotted a picture and his head was turned like sideways because he was shaking his head. And I just had a ring bit on him. I sent her that picture. I was like, man, I don't know what to do about that. And she kind of told me what she had done with another one and what kind of bit she wrote in him. So I stuck that on him and it just worked. That's what I run him in today.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Had you had a previous relationship with Cassie? How did that work out?
Yeah, I've known her for a while. She's always been really nice, really good to me. And I stayed at her place one time, I think between Futurity in Heber City and Utah and Judd's, and then just rode with her some there and kind of probably annoyed the hell out of her picking her brain. But over the few years, she's helped me a bunch, and her and Michael Boone both they obviously great with horses, have a really good eye for it, and just will tell you anything you want to know, really.
We talk about on our show quite a bit how unique the equine world is, but barrel racing specifically, that you can pick the brains of some of the best in the business. I mean, especially we were here while they were, while you guys were warming up your fraternity horses before the exhibitions yesterday, and you kind of see, Talmadge is over holding court doing what Talmadge does, and other folks are walking around. You just take a picture, and it's the best in the world that are all in there at the same time. And they're all on colts. There's colts rearing up and doing crazy stuff, and everybody's kind of on an equal playing field before, the calm before the storm that is the event. But you see folks that don't live in the same neck of the woods, and we kind of all come together, and you get to chat, and you get to kind of pick each other's brain. What horse are you on? How's it bred? What's it doing? I have one like that, and I'm having this issue. And you can talk these things out, and it doesn't have to be, two people like you who have won, a chunk of change in your career. It can be a 16, 17-year-old up-and-comer that's there, and there really is a willingness in the industry, specifically in barrel racing, to really bring the next generation on. Maybe that's in the fraternity world. Maybe that has something to do with the mindset of bringing around the next crop of horses as well. But you kind of have a more nurturing kind of feel to it.
Well, I think everybody here knows that on any given day, you can either look like $1 million or look like 5 cents.
Everybody in here's look like a dumbass at some point.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, colts are humbling. I mean, they either make you look like the best trainer in the world or like you've maybe never trained one in your life. And it may be the same horse. And that's just how it works. I mean, and you might have had the greatest year you've ever had, and then you may have 5 years of
they may be
mediocre or no good. I mean, that's just the way it is, and it doesn't even reflect on how good or bad you are as a trainer. It is a direct reflection of how difficult it is to be a fraternity trainer, and how tough this sport has become, because I, being a little bit older, I've seen the progression of the barrel horse industry, like actually truly breeding for barrel racing versus just let's go buy a reject off the track or a reject cutter or a reject reiner. I mean,
try to cross it with some random cow.
Well, I mean, every other discipline almost had their own breeding, and we were just kind of trying to fill somewhere in the blanks. And now there are true barrel racing bloodlines. I mean, there's a little crossover here and there, and different things work sometimes. But, I mean, truthfully now, the breeding has made the industry so much tougher, and it doesn't matter what kind of great horse you have. You may show up today, and you may not win $1.
Yeah.
And you may show up at the next one, and you may win it by 2/10. It's just on any given day, there's so many good horses that you just never know what you're going to get now. And
well, I think you'll find, even here, just walking around afterwards, doesn't matter how good or bad they do. Everybody that's been around the business for a while is pretty even kill. They had a really shitty day. They're usually pretty okay with it. They brush it off pretty quick. If they had a really good day. We talked to Craig Brooks a while ago. One of the Futurity, he's like, it was good.
Yeah,
Thanks.
it was good.
Appreciate
Thanks.
it. Yeah. I got another horse that he's on, and it's just you gotta have a really short memory all the way around.
If Craig's listening, I got to go collect from him. He won the horse he won the go on. He's got my bid. I told him I was fine. He could keep it. He just had to give me a commission.
It's like,
There you go.
money. It's like
I'll rent it to you.
That's right.
Exactly.
I would certainly get the same thing, just like a team roper riding a horse, right? At least 10% for the bit.
That's what I think.
I mean, that's your
I was
gas
gonna
pedal,
start
right?
higher and let him.
I was going to say, I think I'd start at like 25%.
We can edit that. We can edit that.
Go down from there, yeah.
Hazer Money. Start at Hazer Money and work your way down to Mount Money.
Yeah, for sure.
Man,
For sure.
So what did you bring here? What do you got?
I have two Slick by Designs and Big Daddy Cartel.
Big Daddy Cartel. That's his name?
No, his name is Zippy.
Zippy.
They got real creative there.
Nice.
But he's actually out of a full sister to Woodbridge.
Okay.
Oh.
He's Dash to Fame on the
wow.
bottom.
So,
But I guess Big Daddy Cartel is I think Corona Cartel and Mr. Eye Opener.
oh, gotcha.
So there's
Wow.
a lot of run on
A lot
top,
of run.
and he's
Really
real
fast. So are you riding the stud from last year anymore?
No, he fractured his hock here in the back pen in November,
Right.
and he's over at Salado at the breeders, and they're back riding him there at the vet just to keep him exercise, like long jogging him and stuff, and he's been breeding. But
Right.
I don't know if
That was the elite. That was the thing that had the American qualifier here, right?
yeah.
Gotcha.
But I don't think Robin's decided yet if she's going to run him again or just stand him.
Just stand him.
But yeah, I don't think she knows yet. But
He doesn't have a lot to prove anymore.
no, I'd be scared to break him again. I broke him once. I don't want to break
For
him
sure.
again. But
For sure.
he was definitely a great one to have in the trail, and I'd love to have him back there running again because I mean it's never bad to have one like that.
Did you,
No.
Did you haul mares with them? as
Yeah.
well? Yeah.
Yeah.
All was awesome.
He's pretty good. I mean, we always keep him separate. And when I first started hauling,
We got to
as a
treat him like a
3-year-old
stallion for sure.
Yeah. But when I first started hauling him, I tried to tarp his stall and stuff, and he lost his mind when I did that. And then I took it down, and he's fine, and back to back with geldings and stuff. And he didn't. So I never did it again, and he was fine ever since.
That's
He
awesome.
just did. He needed to be able to see.
Yeah. I always
Yeah.
kept something in there for him to bite or chew on because he's a stud, and he's
Right.
a little bit aggressive that way. But he was. Every so often you had to kind of get after him, but for the most part he was pretty good.
Really good.
Yeah.
Especially when you went to riding him too, he was all business. And he might talk when you're leading him or standing in the stall, but if you were on his back, he never would look. You could stand next to him there, and
That's awesome.
he
That's
was
really
all
cool.
business.
That's good. I mean, that's a gigantic, obviously in today's day and age, stallions, with so many great stallions out there, you're really wanting to find ones that have the right mindset. And
Yeah.
that really have a mindset that if you do have a stallion, you could haul that stallion.
Yeah.
And that's such a impressive and important thing. And I know that's something that's in the forefront
For sure.
of what we look at. It goes right along with looking in a horse's eye when you buy a similar deal, but you certainly want that, with your stallion options out there. So,
Something
Yep.
with some sense.
yeah.
Yep.
Can I get you another beer, dude? Want another one?
Somewhere. Oh,
She'll take it.
you
I
had
got you
your
another.
beer.
I got an ice chest over here. Yeah, I'll get you one.
You can have that one.
give you the warm one.
So you don't have anything in the Derby here?
No,
Feel free to talk while I get him another beer, babe.
Oh,
You carry the conversation. Talk a little bit about where you started and how you
I thought we
got
were
started.
stopping so you could get the beer.
No, I can get a beer. It's just right behind us.
Oh.
No, keep going.
I see.
We're all good to go. We can edit all this out, or not. Talk a little bit about what got you started. Before 2007, before your first BFA. What put you horseback? What got you interested in the barrel racing bug, specifically into training? But take it before that. Kind of touch on your roots a little bit in the horse business.
I really didn't start riding until I was like 11 or 12, something like that. We didn't have horses. Then I guess my aunt got some when I was younger, and I rode her horse around a little bit then, and then I ended up getting one of my own just to ride around the farm, and then kind of went to some 4-H shows, and they ran barrels there. Thank you. Then, so I kind of did that, but I always wanted to rope, but I couldn't find anybody around me to rope. I bought a horse off the internet, off a Dream Horse that said it was a ranch roping horse. I don't think it was. I got a rope, and we had 4-H steers and stuff too, and I was chasing them and trying to catch them, and thank God I couldn't, because that would have been a train wreck.
That's funny.
But then,
It's kind of market. You probably
You
get
bought
sued for that,
something on
for
the
something like that.
internet that wasn't what it said it was.
yeah.
It's on the
figure.
internet. It's got to be
Believe
true.
that, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And don't you wonder how people don't get hurt like that sometimes?
Ignorance is bliss.
You actually never caught one.
Yeah.
It was a miracle, right?
God protects the
Somebody was looking out for me.
God protects children and the ignorant. I, think
I
it's
was both.
something like that. There you go. Exactly. You hit it on both ends.
Yeah.
So you started with a roping horse, or a horse off Dream Horse?
Yeah.
So did you teach the ranch roping ranch roping horse barrels?
Yeah, kind of on accident. The woman, I met some woman at the feed store, and she said something about running barrels, and I was trying to do it at the 4-H shows, and she said she did, so I started going over there and riding with her some, and that horse just kind of did it. And he wasn't real fast, but he'd run barrels. And then she had another horse that was faster, and she ended up trading me that one for her daughter. And so that's like the first real barrel horse I rode, and I ran him some. And he was getting older, and she kind of trained a little bit too. So then I ended up buying a colt and kind of training it with her some, and that's kind of how I started going
Got
from
into
there.
Cool.
And then
Interesting.
Just liked it and didn't want a real job because they're not really fun.
Well, that's for sure. I got one of those too,
Yeah.
kinda. But I own the construction company with my dad and my brother, so obviously if I had a real job, I'd have to be doing that now and not sitting here
I
drinking
think
a beer.
sometimes I work way harder at my not real job than I did if I had a real job.
Well, I think you'll find anybody that's not completely subsidized by our government and other things that don't have real jobs, quote unquote. You'll find that they have to most of the time work a hell of a lot harder to actually make those things solvent.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's
Right.
unfortunately when it's your own baby 24/7.
Yeah, it never stops.
That's it.
Right.
Those horses unfortunately have colts, have foals, and kick shit in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
So
We just had a foal about 20 minutes ago.
of course
Oh.
you did because you're here.
Right.
Let's,
Well, I don't know anything about breeding, so I send them to the breeders.
Yep.
the vets there and all that, they do that. Just we were talking about it the other day. I said I don't know if she's had it or not, and we get a text a little bit ago, and it was actually a horse that Emily ran in the Derby. And we were taking the saddle off, and she got a text on her phone from the vet, and it was a picture of his baby.
Oh, the one that you just ran, you were 25 here.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
How fun.
Great timing.
Yeah.
Perfect timing.
But
Cool. What is it?
he's she ended up gelding him, but we bred him before she gelded him, and he's
Oh, it's his baby. It's by him.
yeah.
By him.
Gotcha.
He's a streak of fling out of Fantasia fame.
Oh.
Wow.
And then the mare is she's a dashing cleat, a sixer run, I think. I can't remember now. But Troy got, I think, second at the Speed Horse Honor as a Futurity horse. Bob Hamilton owned it. I bought it from him a
Gotcha.
couple years ago.
Oh, gotcha.
We were just talking
Well,
about
that's
Fanny
interesting.
on here not too long ago.
Yeah. With Angie.
With Angie. Yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Everything's good to go. Everybody healthy and happy.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Great. Congrats. So, ranch horse, riding with the chick that you met at the feed stores, kind of barrel racing at 4-H events and that sort of thing, and jumped in 2 feet into the BFA. I mean, how did you get into a fraternity horse, into training colts? Where did you were you on Barrel Horse World searching for used, I mean, not used horses, but searching for
Used
colts?
horses?
Kinda. It's kind of what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, some there. I found a couple here and there. And then the woman that I was riding with, she was buying some from a guy like a little bit east of Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a stud and some brood mares, and I bought a few of them off of them and kind of just kept getting different ones here and there, and then bought a couple off the track and stuff like that. And then was running, a friend of mine I went to high school with, he had a pretty good job, made some good money, and then me and him bought one together.
Mhm.
And then, well, he
It's always
bought
good to
one.
have those friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, we bought one with my brother before, a similar situation. Like, sure, I mean, you're spending money on things. Why don't you just buy a barrel horse? Like, I've
Yeah.
never bought a barrel horse before.
Yeah, be ready to lose.
Yeah.
I think that's what he said. I've never owned a horse
I said,
before.
but you got like extra cash you're not doing anything with that if you lose it, you're cool with, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, it didn't go well. I mean, it went
No,
good.
it went good.
No, it went good. Like, he didn't, when I say it didn't go well, like, he didn't win Fort Smith or anything.
No, this is what he said. Well, that other one won like $140,000 and
Why couldn't I have that one?
sold
Same
for
year.
$7 million. Why didn't mine do that? And I was like, well, but you made money.
Yeah, yeah.
You won.
You
You
doubled
made
your
money.
in a
That's
short
a
period
win.
of time.
Yeah. You did not lose money.
You're in the black. That's a positive here.
That's not a common thing in barrel racing.
No,
I mean,
it's
that's what you
not.
got to have those. Like you said, you got to have those $400 and something thousand. You got to have that gold nugget right in the middle of your gold nugget right in the middle of your shit sandwich.
Yeah.
Because you got to have those years to account for everything else.
Make it worth it.
To make it worth it, and that's it. And the good news is having a year like that, you'll be stuck with it now for the next couple of decades because you'll be chasing that one. Hopefully it happens many times for you, but that's one of
Odds
those
are
things
against
that.
you.
You act like you're speaking from experience.
Speaking from logic.
Speaking from logic, yeah, I try to think about things
Watch your
practically.
answer now.
For sure, I'm digging my way out of this hole. Stay on your horse. That's what I recommend. Consider wearing a helmet in the training pen. That'll be the last time I harp on that. You only get one noggin, and then when it gets rattled, things happen. So anyway, I'll digress. Reminds me we were talking.
He thinks I'm the only person that ever falls off my horse and gets
No, you
hurt.
just fall off your horse the most frequently. Just last week, you weren't even on a horse. You were holding a horse for the farrier, and you got mauled by a 2-year-old, like drug underneath.
That never happens, right? It's completely only at our house.
We were talking with Molly a little bit about it, and she said it's so much more. You should thank your horse trainer for so much more than the 15 to 17 to 20 seconds that you have in an arena and the enjoyment that you get out of that for that one split second. It's every time that you're able to lead your horse, every time you're able to pick up your horse's feet, every time you're able to put a bit in the horse's mouth. All of that came generally with an explosion of some sort or some sort of near-death experience that if somebody wasn't experienced, it may have killed them. And these are the things that you deal with and take for granted every single day, but are something that really is where the value of a horse trainer comes in. It's a lot more than how quick can they wrap a barrel.
Yeah, a lot into it you don't see.
Oh, for sure.
So,
Jimmy Smith sent me a text. I don't think I even told you this. Like, maybe yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Completely hand all swollen, Aggie ring bent. She said, I tried to use my clippers. She got stepped on with her hand. She got run over by a colt and stepped on her hand and bent her Aggie ring. I forgot to tell you that.
Oh, that's it. We have matching rings, but
That doesn't
mine's
ever happen either, right? I try to use my clippers. That's what she said. Heaven forbid I try to use my clippers.
There's professionals for that, I'm sure. Just like he's like, I don't breed horses. There's pros for that. 100%. There's somebody who can certainly make a living doing that.
Unfortunately, we are the pros at breaking horses to clippers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
And farriers. That's what trying to get my horse where it can be trimmed.
Oh, no.
No.
That's kind of where I was going with that. You guys are the ones that take your lumps.
Yeah.
So you have, after last year, was your phone ringing off the hook? Do you have 47 fraternity horses for next year?
Yeah, we had a bunch.
2,200 2-year-olds?
We had a lot of colts this year, and we had a bunch. I like a whole bunch of them. But yeah, it's been real busy. Hard to complain about being busy, but it'll wear you down.
Well, 100%. You can only throw a leg over so many. And how many before I go in any crazy numbers? How many are you riding a day now?
Probably 12 to 15, depending on the day, or 10 to 15, depending on what other stuff's going on.
Do you have help doing that? Do you get handed off? Do folks exercise?
You have
and then
someone
you get handed
saddling
to them
for you?
Depends on the day. Usually we got somebody saddling. We have somebody feeding and cleaning stalls and stuff like that. Then there's a girl down. We're staying at Bob Hamilton's. We stay there in the winter in Unadilla at Southeastern Arena. And there's a girl down there now that she kind of helps part-time saddling, unsaddling, and she feeds in the morning and the evenings. Then for a couple months there after Oklahoma City until about the American, I think is when he went home. The guy that actually breaks a lot of the colts I ride, he was down there and helping me with he was riding a bunch for me then. He'd get on some of the colts that were still kind of green and keep them going while I was going to like Kinder and the American and stuff like that. So that helped with keeping them going and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And what ages are those 15? Like what age do you start your colts at?
Depends. Like we get some of them are 2-year-olds when we start them. Towards the end, a lot of times Robin will send a group of 2-year-olds early or late in their 2-year-old year, but a lot of them will be 3 by the time before I get them.
Gotcha.
And they're usually they are already broke. I don't break horses. So.
Right, me neither.
Yeah,
So how many days do you like on them when they come to you, or specifically maybe what do you like them doing?
Usually they have about 60 days. That guy, Luane Graham, he's up in Pennsylvania. He's like, I've rode behind a lot of colt breakers, and like hands down, he's got to be the best one I've ever rode. Like usually if he has them for 60 days or so, like you can get on them, ride them a week or so, and then go right and have them doing what you want to do, then go to the barrels. But like sometimes he'll, depending on the horse, he'll keep them maybe another 30 days if he thinks they need it. But 60 to 90 days is usually plenty on them. But
I like mine to have 60 days, but I train out in the middle of a field, like 150 acres. So mine have to be pretty accustomed outside because I have cattle too that can be up there and stuff like that. So I usually do another 30 days. The last 30 days he rides them mostly outside, all pasture work and working cattle and stuff so that I don't get run off with in the pasture and stuff.
Luane actually takes him, like, I think he'll get on him. He's got a little indoor, like, building up there in Pennsylvania because it's cold.
Right,
Yeah.
very cold, yes.
And he gets on him in there, I think, the first couple days, and then he goes right outside from there. And, like,
That's
he usually
really good.
breaks them outside. And I've been to his place once, and it's, like, on a mountain.
That's
so he
awesome.
goes up hills and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
Actually, the first time I was there is when he had the stud. He had him for about 2 weeks, and he was riding him in the building. He didn't like the way he was riding, so he said he wanted to go outside. And he had another one, a Dash to Fame filly at Robbins, and it's a Dash to Fame filly. Like, it
Right.
had plenty of attitude. He only had one bit, so he said he gave me the bit and the stud, and he put a halter on the Fame mare, and then we went
wow.
up the hill. I'll tell you, then we were riding around this part on the side of the mountain where he had like his trail. I'm like, well, that's not so bad. And then we get to the top, and he rides around up there a little bit, and then the other side was like the man from Snowy River and hill, and he said, oh, if they're real bad, he'll go up and down that, and it kind of wears him out. And then we go in the woods. I don't think I've ever been so scared in my life. Like, I could reach over and touch the side of the hill on my left side.
Oh, wow.
That's steep.
But I mean, he's got a lot of horse sense. Just
That's good for those colts, though,
Oh, yeah,
learning
it's
where to
amazing
place
for
their
those colts,
feet,
yeah.
not to
Yeah.
get away from him, and
Like-
always let him drive him and stuff.
he doesn't do like they're not spinning or doing anything fancy, but
Yeah.
they ride so good, and they just have a lot of confidence. And
That's what I like, too.
yeah, like he doesn't overtrain them, and he
Right.
gives them their head a lot, and they're always really light in the face, I think, because he's not always pulling on them. But
Right.
I don't know, it's worked out for me really well.
Yeah. My guy rides them, too, and doesn't, like, overbreak them or get them too, backed off, or that's not my thing either. But they have a lot of time to be trained, too,
Yeah.
I think, especially, and I think those first days, like you said, if they're a confident horse, if they know what to do and how to travel correctly, where to put their feet, and know that the person up there is going to always keep them in a good spot or get them out of trouble, then that tends to roll over into throughout their career a lot longer than,
Yeah, I agree with that.
always trying to train on them and keep them
When they're scared.
right. Yeah.
I think that first few rides, the first 30, 60 days is the most important to them.
I do too.
You
I
can
do
usually
too.
tell which ones are what.
So I want to talk about that a little bit, because here's kind of one of the questionable things, and my wife may kick me for even asking this question, but when it comes time to cull horses, when you have a shit ton of 2-year-olds that you only have so many spots on the trailer, there's only so many hours in a day, so much energy that one person has, or even 2 people or 3 people, however big your program is. How do you go about deciding what horses are going to make it? There's obviously more 5-year-old fraternities now. Do you 5-year-old fraternity horses? Do you hold them over having a lot of horses? Sometimes that doesn't play, the 5-year-old game doesn't play into the plans of some trainers. If you have another
Can I ask the
42
question you're
year-olds,
trying to ask?
ask it. Obviously, I'm stumbling over it.
How does your system work for what you keep and what you... Oh, I can't hear
We're all good.
anything.
We're still recording. Just give us a second.
Yeah, but I can't hear him. Judge, here. Judge, here. Get your butt over here. Get over here. Now. Fooey. Bad dog. Okay.
That was exciting. Chuck saw another dog, and he wanted to go sniff his butt.
He's ready.
Yes.
Everybody like Judge. We have a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old, so he just gets mauled anytime he's at the soccer field. Just a gang of kids. He was at the t-ball game the other day, and
They're like sitting on him.
once kids understand that he's a sweet dog, they think
They're
he's
all
like,
over
they
him.
love him because he looks scary and he's not. So they're up in his face and like, look at his sharp teeth and all this. But when he runs up to a dog here, people freak out. I'm like, no. It's usually the little yappy ass dogs that want to bite him on the heels. Those are the ones I'm worried about, not him. But anyway, so let's get back to it.
How do you go through your process of starting colts and then, going through selecting what you're going to keep, what you're going to, maybe send home, maybe what you're going to hold over, don't hold over? How do you go through that process?
It's probably the hardest part of it. Like,
I agree.
I hate that part more than anything. 'Cause, I mean, you want them all to make it, but obviously, even if they all do, you can't keep
Right.
them all. But you try not to disappoint owners, but that's about impossible.
Yeah.
But
Well, every time anybody buys a horse, that's the best horse ever. They have
Ever.
the expectations.
I
Right.
actually own a 3-year-old, and I bought at Judd sale, and I mess with Emily all the time and tell her how perfect she is, and she's a winner, and she's not even going around the barrels. But
Right.
so I'm going to be that owner.
You are that owner.
She can't do wrong.
Yeah.
So I can relate to him.
That's awesome.
But,
Emily, do you agree? Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes.
Emily's right on
Perfect.
camera.
Good
right
answer.
there.
She's perfect.
Yep.
Right. That's what she said. She's perfect.
Yep.
You
But-
must hate her.
No, she is
She's a
big.
big old broodmare.
She is big.
She's thicky.
She gets like put to
Thick
the
with
back.
2 C's.
And obviously, because I own her, she gets the last one to get rode. So she's
Well, that's
pretty fat.
your obligations to your owners. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the reality of it.
They pay the bills, not that one. So
Please don't talk into the mic. But really, can I say that? All right, let's go. Mad
But,
at me now.
they for about calling horses, I try to go just whatever kind of I think will fit my style the best. And then for holding over, that just depends on the owners if they want to hold them and keep them or send them home for a little while and let them grow up. Because a lot of times I think some of these colts just aren't physically mature enough, or the ones I feel like I've done the best on were either big or small, but like physically they looked like an older horse. I think
Right.
those are
agree.
the ones that have done the best, that I felt like I've done the best on. And like that Folsom Prisoner, he was always a good colt. Like, he was my favorite one when I started him, but then he went through a spell where like he just kind of couldn't hold it the way he kind of had like a more rollback kind of style. I think he wasn't strong enough once he went faster to make that
That big move.
So like he went through a kind of a funk, and like we kind of talked about holding him. But I think he'll be okay. And it was actually Diamonds and Dirt was of his 4-year-old year was the first check he won in the Futurity, and then he kind of really just started coming on from there. But like he
Just
was
took him a little bit longer. Huh?
yeah, and then after that, that's when he started really like filling out and getting thick. But I don't know. So I kind of try to look at that a little bit, but more so ones that I feel like will fit me, and then that you don't have to really force into. That's kind of what I try to go after it with.
I agree. And I kind of like it. I haven't held a lot over, but the ones that I have held over, I think it's better like if you have them going and then kind of either make the decision like they're not physically ready, maybe they're not mentally ready, and then I let them have a little break for several months and then come back to it. And it always seems like that time off kind of gets them over the hump too and
Yeah.
helps them mature one way or the other usually.
Yeah, then you still know what you got.
Right.
A lot of times it feels like they kind of come around and just feels like they got trained while they were sitting in the pasture.
Right. So my dad was a racehorse guy, and he always had this thing that he said, like, when I send my colts off to get broke, I get them rode for like 60 days, and then I bring them home and I turn them out for 60 days. And then I send them back for the last 30 days where they ride them outside a lot, and then I take up over and put them into my program. But one of the reasons that I like to turn them out that second 60 days is, just like you said, he always said that break just helped them mentally mature and they like absorb what you've taught them. And it seems like the ones that, for whatever reason, like you kind of get right there at the maybe August, September, right there where you need to start making the payments, and you think, maybe this one's not going to be there. And then, they have the time to absorb it for several months. You maybe turn them out for a while when you make the decision not to go ahead and run them and hold them over. And it seems like they absorb what you've trained them to. That's kind of been the experience that I've had too. that seems like some of those need that extra time to absorb it.
You think that they just develop more just
I do.
as a horse physically? Obviously, in your horse's case that you're talking about, in Folsom Prisoner, he developed physically and was able to actually take the torque on with his size and have that
Well,
muscle.
I mean, it depends. Like, that one sounds like he needed to bulk up. Sometimes they're too big and they need to cut,
It's like a kid that grows,
Mhm.
it's like a 6'5" kid.
Yeah.
in fifth grade.
Yeah,
Right.
or, like they need to be able to learn how to put it all together because they got legs going everywhere or whatever. Some of them aren't just quite mature enough mentally, and they do better as 5-year-olds because they need that one more year. I mean, I often think about our son Jagger's birthday is like right at the beginning of September, so we could have sent him, and he would have been 5 when he started kindergarten. He would have turned 5 like 2 weeks after it started. Well, he would have been 5 like everybody else, but we chose to keep him at home, so he was 5 when he started. Well, he turned 6 2 weeks after he started kindergarten, so he's the oldest one in his class. Well, he doesn't seem that different than the other kids until you kind of get around him in a group, and then that's when I kind of like,
Well, cerebrally.
Yeah.
Mentally, he's been a lot different place than a lot of these kids.
and so I mean, you kind of have to think about that as these are baby horses, so just that 1 year for them to mentally develop can make a big difference for a lot of those horses, especially if they're hotter bred, they have an injury. I mean, barrel racing training is not always the easiest things on their young bodies either.
But yeah, a lot of these horses here that are running are still 3. I mean, you call
Yeah.
them 4-year-olds, but
Right.
they're still
Right.
3.
Right. Yeah.
as the calendar falls. Yeah, for sure. And I
Yeah.
think you're asking a lot. And, at this point in the year, if you went to BFA, and hell, even next year, there's BFA, BBR. Then if you go to Arizona, if you go to Edna, then you go to Kinder, and then Lance's now in Guthrie into this. There's so much stuff. They can pile on so many runs on these horses that are still, by calendar, 3 years old.
Yeah.
Right.
And you start seeing, start seeing some of the race vets here getting a little more traction because 'tis the season. I mean, there's just so much going on. And then, of course, you tie that into now it's spring and there's Mary stuff going on and everything else is happening. It's just, it's absolutely a magic trick to keep these horses running.
It is. That's, I think, another thing a lot of people don't see is the stuff you do at home to keep them physically fit and healthy, and how
Yeah.
much goes into that. I mean, I know a lot of people, especially like new owners that haven't been in this very long, like they don't realize that part of it.
We talk about the modalities and stuff, like some of the stuff that
Oh,
you have
yeah,
to do.
everything.
What do you find? What do you lean on now? What are your favorite go-tos at the barn that you do to keep your horses sound and fit?
Well, it just depends on the horse, and I think just really reading the horse, and I feel like I do something different every year just depending on the horse. But like here, you mean like the therapy stuff, or
Sure.
the like with Andrea in the spa? I do that spa a lot, and then the MwH stuff, and then
Yeah, that's a saltwater treatment spa.
yeah.
Mhm.
Then at home, like I like to get them out as much as I can, and then just kind of read the horse and like, if changing their diet or if they need something different or just treating for EPM or ulcers, and staying on top of that stuff is, I think, really important because they can get looking rough in a hurry.
And if
can
you catch it up front.
Yeah, and you try to stay on top of it.
Well, you can't have. I don't think that you can have one program, no matter how fantastic your program is, no matter how much of a winner you are. Your program doesn't work for every single horse.
Right.
You really, and I think that if you are in that frame of mind, like I have a great program and it's going to work for every horse that I have,
Yeah, it's not.
you're not going to win very long
Right.
because that program may work specifically for that horse. But, even within your program, yeah, your program may overall be the same, but you have to start doing individual things for each one of those horses, and they're all different. And especially when you get a bunch of winners in your barn like you had, because some of winning big on those horses is knowing how to, I guess, like, know their personality and know those little fine
quirks.
tuning things and the quirks and how to, like there's some horses that need to be kept backed off because they'll toe the line all the time. There's some horses that have to be told they're beautiful and wonderful and patted on the butt. And, I mean, there's just so many, there's some horses that like to be totally left alone. There's some that need all of your attention. And those are all individual things. And those are things that are just in their personalities. That's just their needs like from a person to a horse. That has nothing to do with what they have going on with their body, or if they have any soundness issues, or any of the feed things like you're talking about. That's just just the fine tuning things you have to do personality to personality to help those big horses win big.
Yeah.
I think.
I agree with that. Give them every chance they can.
Yeah. And because every winner that I've ever had has been quirky in some way. And they're all seem to be different.
Do you think that they're all quirky, or do you think they are winners because you spend enough time around them to really know their personality, and every personality is quirky to an extent, but you spend enough time around that horse to really gain their quirks, really understand their quirks? Does that make sense? It's kind of a chicken or the egg sort of question. But
I think that winners are quirky.
Yeah, probably goes for humans.
I don't know. I just haven't had very many. There are some horses you get on that just don't have very, like they may be your favorite horse in the barn because they're easy to ride, they're easy to be around, they never do anything wrong, they never whatever. That horse is usually not your big winner.
I agree with that. Like they might do everything good, but nothing great.
They may make a phenomenal, they do well enough. You could sell them to a kid for a good chunk of change, or somebody that can ride them and be really happy forever on them. Yeah. And they may be your biggest client, happy horse, but not necessarily going to be the one that.
Yeah, the one that goes wins big. But they could go win checks here and stuff like that, but not be that
for a long period of time.
Winner.
Well, and I think that sometimes when those really big time horses sell for a lot of money, and then they go to somebody else and they're not quite as successul, I think some of that has to do with personalities. I
think you're right on a lot of that.
I have always, said that not every personality and every horse and human personality are a match. And I think sometimes when those big time horses, when you win on those big time horses, it's because that horse is perfect for you. It doesn't mean that I could win on it. Or Emily could win on it, or anyone. Even if you two ride exactly the same, you could probably stick her on it and she could jump ride it somewhere. But if she had to take it home, care for it, and then turn it around and it has to start adapting to her personality, her training program, the way she does things daily. When you start changing that interaction with the horse and the human daily, then I think that starts to change the dynamic sometimes of the horse, and it can back off that edge just a little bit.
Everybody wants to have a sister and think, I could take sister and go out there and win the world too. But we've talked to Haley a couple times, and she goes, sister has all y'all fooled. Sister, y'all think she's real easy and sweet. Like, there's times where you just don't want to be around her. She's not as pleasant. I mean, she's still my baby. However, it's a delicate relationship. It's day to day, and I think that's the case with King, obviously, for Jackie, and anybody that has any horse that's worth a shit.
Well, and I think, too, that there's certain things, like, you have to know, like, I can let him do this and not get on to him for that, because that's not a big deal. That's not going to matter in the long run. But this thing is a big deal. I have to back him off for that. Yeah. And, I think there's a fine line with those horses for them to run as fast and as hard and to have as much grit and try as they need to be like a first place 1D American type horse, that kind of the highest elite horse. It's like this fine line between, like, they're completely, I think they almost have to have like an ego to some point, but you have to know how to keep that in check. It's like this super delicate balance of that.
Like Cornerstone, when I first got him, and he would kind of funny looking, he was a good looking horse. Well, he's still kind of funny made, just really tall and almost like a giraffe looking. But
that's funny.
He when he first come in the barn, like, he'd stand in the back of the stall. He wouldn't, just was there. You wouldn't even know he was there unless you walked in there and looked for him. then like when he started winning, he started getting kind of cocky, and now he's out in the stall and he hangs his head out and he knows
Right.
what's going
I'm
on
over
in
here.
the barn at all the time. Yeah, and you walk by him, he's got his head out looking at you, like talking, and just kind of got that ego to him.
Right.
Where when he didn't have that for the longest time.
You think
He
he
just kinda-
understands that
he
they've
just kinda
taken me in
fell
the
in the
arena
mix.
to take pictures before, and they've held, I've had to pose many times, and now I'm
Yeah, I don't know
King
what,
Kong over here.
what made it, but he definitely acts like it. And I don't know if it's now when he just goes in and he knows what he's supposed to do. Because it kind of, I mean, he was the same as like the mentality of horses. He was halfway through his 5-year-old year when I had him, and Sarah Zaleski had him. Then I think she raised him and trained him. Then Kendall Owen had him for a while, and then that's who Sarah bought him from. So I got him after Fort Smith. So he's still kind of like green mentally, and I don't know if it's just growing up that did it, or when he just kind of got confident knowing where he was going, and like every time he ran,
Right.
you don't really have to touch him. He's easy, like one of probably the easiest horses I've ever rode. You just hold your reins and ride him to a spot and don't touch him, where before it was a lot of timing. I think it was just
Right.
immaturity, and he just kind of got solid, and I don't know if that's why he kind of knows his job and knows what he's supposed to do every time he runs now, or I don't know what it is, or maybe he just likes his picture taken.
Or maybe they accidentally just run a real fast time, and then they get all this fabulous treatment, and then they start associating it with running real fast
Running
times.
fast is good.
Yes.
No, I think that
Oh,
happens.
if
I
I'm
mean,
the fastest horse in the barn, I get all the special
You
things.
get the good stuff.
That's right.
I mean, I can remember when when like Prince ran, and he went for being, man, this horse has really got some talent. He's talented, and then all of a sudden he did it. You're like, oh crap, he's really talented. And then it was kind of like after that, you expected it, and when you expected it, you did it. It was
Yeah.
kind of one of those things. Like all of a sudden, you knew it was there, and so it was a combination of you asking for it properly because you said, oh, when I ask for it like this is when he gives it to me, and you kind of click, and then it happens. But 100% horses get it, and they have an ego, and
Yeah.
any horse that I've ever been around, and it hasn't been, like I said, I'm not a lifelong horseman by any means. I'm a little over a decade now. Any horse that I've ever been around that's been super nice has been like that, has
Yeah.
kind of walked around with their head high, and of course, obviously there's exceptions, but has known their King Kong, and
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I find the coolest. There's that trait of the high athlete and the successful athlete amongst humans, and the equine athlete as well. You see similar personality traits, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So if folks want to get a hold of you still taking horses?
I'm pretty full right now.
Pretty full? Yeah, I would imagine you're bursting
I
at
don't
the
need
seams.
any more.
It'll probably change here after a bad year or two, but right now.
What have you done for me lately? For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if somebody goes and buys the high seller for something crazy at some place and it's bred out of this world, shoot him a text.
Send it over.
Shoot him a text. Well, I'm sure he'll consider it, but
It might be a lot of pressure too.
for sure, that's
You
100%.
paid
what
how
it is.
much for that?
Yeah.
Exactly. Like you know how much you got to win, especially getting an owner's cut. What you got to win to actually get that back, right? Good luck.
Right.
Thank God for those people who
Yeah,
who raise their
absolutely.
hand at those auctions.
For sure.
Keeps
Yeah.
our business afloat. You gotta. I know you have a Brandon Cullins Barrel Horses page on Facebook or Instagram or one of those, so folks can get a hold of you there and kind of follow you and see what you got going on.
Yeah, I don't even know if I use that anymore. I think it's still on there. I used to use my own one that's just my name.
Mhm.
Then, yeah, that's probably that. I think it still does come up on there.
Cool.
But yeah, that way is probably.
Well, now I'm gonna be driving traffic to it, so
Yeah.
post some runs on there,
So
man.
get something on there.
Post some runs. I'm
Also,
sending
I
some
don't know
runs
if you listen to this podcast, but once you've been on it, you're now one of Lane's best friends.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. No, I appreciate that. I'll be texting. I'll be
Y'all are
texting you a
best
lot
friends
later
now.
and
Yeah.
texting you at random
So,
times of the night.
Yeah.
Well, anybody that offers me beer all the time, I'm cool
for sure.
with.
Okay.
For sure. We'll be
We're
here
all
all week.
best
We'll have
friends.
beer, and feel free at some point. I'm gonna get some other dudes over here, and we're just gonna have some beers and talk about not horses and things like that also. So
That sounds good
we'll,
to me.
we'll figure that out.
Not horses.
I mean,
what are y'all going to talk about?
I don't know.
I
Football?
can't wait. Oh, football.
I don't know. What do dudes talk about?
Redskins.
That's right.
Chicks.
Nothing.
That sounds like awful.
Beer.
Yeah.
Speaking of, we're drinking. What are we drinking? It was Border Town Estella Mexicano, Mexican style lager from Blackwater Draw. They're in College Station. It's a local brewery.
pretty
Local
good.
local brewery.
It's pretty good. I
Yeah.
like it. I think it's the first time I've ever had that one. I've gone over there and had like their stuff that they're doing like fresh there. It's kind of right on University. Oh, it's over there. Anyway, it's right over there on University beside.
We can't hear anything
Grub.
anymore. You're going to have to
There we
wrap
go.
it up.
See that little the two prong things that's hanging out of the back? Nope. Nope.
Nope.
There's like 2 holes right there, and one of those.
Yep.
Either one of those.
Yep.
Nope.
No,
No.
no.
Put your right hands on. That's the one. Good job.
Good job.
We're going to have to fix that. I didn't get the right cord a while ago. We went and got new cords, and I got the wrong one, so I used the
Apparently.
old one that's too short.
Too short.
Anyway, so thanks for hanging out with us, dude.
For sure.
Thanks for
We
having
took
me.
your
All
15 or 20 minutes and turned it into an hour, so
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
That's
Thanks.
no problem. I got nothing to do.
Lane
Right.
talks a lot. It's his
sure you got
fault.
horses to feed or...
I'm making feed, right?
There you go.
Oh, no. I bet you don't make her feed.
Hey, good luck the
I'm
rest
going
of
to
the
follow
weekend.
you to the stall and see who
Thanks.
does
So
it.
how many fraternity horses do you have, did you say?
Running 3.
Running 3?
Yeah.
Cool, Emily. You got the Derby horse? One of the fraternity, one of the Derby? Well, good luck. Good luck to both you guys.
Thank you.
Cash in them
Awesome.
checks. Get some
Yep.
of that money.
I'm going to try to.
Yep.
Awesome.
Cool, man. Good luck.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Bye.
It's always weird saying bye.